I think cubism is awesome, and today I'm going to be painting a Ford Escort rs2000 in cubist style. Now, for those who don't know, cubist style is a great one made by George Braque and Pablo Picasso over 100 years ago. This cool art style really deconstructs reality into a new form. They do this by getting an object that they usually paint from a single perspective. In this one, they're painted from multiple views all at once, from the front, from the side, up, down and stuff, and combining these all together. But again, the image of its raw, actual, essential geometric forms and place them in different shards within the actual picture, and keeping it flat as possible. So there's no initial depth perspective within it. There's the light sources all over the place and stuff. And they actually use neutral colours to actually really tone down the depth of it. Some say it's actually more realistic than actual paintings because it has much more rawness within it. I'm a professional artist by trade. I actually specialise in automotive vehicles, so I like to think there's not much like cubist art out there that specialises in vehicles. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to combine my two favourite things together: love of cars and love of cubism as well. So today I'm working on a very special car. This is a Max Power demo car from 1997. This is a Ford Escort rs2000, which has had spent over 76,000 on it back in the day. That was a ridiculous amount, and it was so famous it even had its own PlayStation game. With this cubist drawing, I worked with oil pastels. I like to work on oil pastels because I love the grudgy kind of feel. When George Braque and Picasso painted it, they wanted initial brush strokes to actually see it and stuff. I don't really work with paints. I want to be more efficient, so that's why I use oil pastels. Plus, I love the grudginess and the texture that oil pastels bring. And unfortunately, my camera angle is a bit low at the moment. I do apologise for that. I paint usually on a stationary bike, and it's hard to adjust things once things are started. And there was a bit of technical error where I didn't actually draw the black lines in on the start of the video. But the black lines initiate like the general skeleton of the actual picture that you're making, and you just analyse different views to start off with and different forms and stuff. So when looking at the Ford Escort, you can see I captured like the suspension on the left. I captured like various different front views, which you can see the lights, the grille and stuff. And I wanted to capture some of the shapes of the bumper as well, so you see the curves forming, and you see some of the wheel arch, some of the side mirror, the rear and stuff like that. So there's lots of different forms, and I had the magazine reference as well, which has disappeared somewhere unfortunately. But the magazine covers lots of different angles from great photographers in it, so it gives you a good view of all areas of the actual vehicle. So I want to combine all these areas of the vehicle together in this cubist style. On all these different views together and combine them in this weird geometric form. This is kind of the most complicated part of the actual picture, just because there's a lot of areas where it's all fragmented. You can actually recognise some areas of the vehicle, you can recognise other areas you can't, but you all know that everything actually on the page is from the vehicle itself. So now it's just a case of actually distinguishing all those individual shards from different perspectives. I distinguish all the different shards. What I do with the oil pastel first. I like to work on tan paper, just so it deletes all the white areas first, so it gives a nice rich colour to it. And to start with all the shards, I do like little black areas of where I want the darkest point to be. I want to go from light to dark, light to dark, light to dark, all over the whole picture as well, to give a little flat perspective. So the light source comes from different areas, but it individualises all these different shards together. So I start with all the black areas first, work with like a slightly purple colour, then working into brighter pinks, then working into white. Once the actual oil pastel is down, I'll use linseed oil to actually blend it all together. This just helps smudge it all to give it that much more smoother graduation from black to light. It was also very important when Picasso and George Braque actually did these pictures, when they actually did the actual initial skeleton of the actual vehicle, the black lines which I started with, you go back into those to actually redraw them, because they're the most important part of the picture to distinguish certain shards of the vehicle. So after I blended everything together, went back to black again to actually distinguish some of the lines there, and then just back again to tease again different colours. Some cubist styles worked in very neutral colours, because colours itself has a lot of depth perspective. Like a very shocking red comes forward, while cool blue comes back, which is like natural perspective. When you look in the atmosphere and stuff like that, you see the cool blues in the mountains, and you can see red flowers at the front and stuff. However, the vehicles I like to paint and stuff for cubist style don't come in really neutral colours, and I want to I think if I don't add too much saturation within it, it won't actually have much of a problem with depth perspective. That's where the tan paper comes in as a base colour. If it was white, it would be a lot more saturated, but because it's tanned and I'm blending them together with the blacks and stuff like that to really desaturate it, there's not much problem actually having too much depth perspective within it. Of keeping neutral tones and stuff like that. I don't like to actually too much colours to this. I try and keep it monochrome as possible, but I do add like a touch of blue just where some of the light reflection is from like the windscreen, a touch of red from the rear lights, a bit of yellow from the suspension, a bit of green here and there from the seat harness and stuff. So there's like little hints of colour here and there and that, and they do fragment it like different areas and stuff. Distinguished all the different shards and stuff like that. What I usually tend to do is I usually like to work on one corner first, so I'll get all the colours down first, linseed oil, wait for that one corner to dry. While I'm waiting for a few days for that corner to dry, I'll work on another corner, then I'll work on another area, and sometimes I like to turn the picture as well. Even though I turn the picture, it doesn't actually add any difference to the actual perspective. You can turn this picture any way you want, and it'll still be flat because there's no initial depth within it. Satisfied with all the blending that I've done, I want to really try and make that a little bit of pop of colour just to make those shards really pop out at the very top. When I'm actually like drawing these like individual shards and stuff, these geometric shapes, I want to try and visualize them like kind of like mountain tops and stuff like that with a dark shadow behind it. So I use a bit of Posca marker, which is very opaque, which can sit on top of the oil pastels that are dry. So I use a little bit of Posca marker on top just to bring out that little touch of saturation of pink, maybe a touch of white on top of there as well. This really helps create nice strong shard geometric shapes. I think the best version of that is the side mirror on the right hand side with the blue, the circle and stuff. I think that looks really awesome. Another feature of the actual Cubist paintings from back in the day is also they like to make a main focus in the centre and gradually fade out, which is what I've done with the tan lines in the background. So you can see how the skeleton lines kind of just like fade off into all around, and it's more focus in the middle. What I like best about this painting so far, I think I really like the centre bit of it with the two grills combined. I also like some of the random shapes that are formed around it, all these like little curves and shapes. This is where I think it really highlights an alternative perspective of looking at these vehicles, because you look at a Ford Escort, you know how I recognise a Ford Escort, but this deconstructs the actual initial shape of these modified cars into a much more raw form. So you see and once you actually put those raw forms together on a flat perspective, you see a whole new vision of the car. The actual construction of the car is still there, it's just in a different perspective. A new perspective that's never been seen before. So this is why I like to do it, because it's just like a whole new kind of quest, a whole new adventure. Some of my favourite cars of the Max Power era, the modified cars and stuff, let's have a new vision of how they're actually seen. I think probably the thing that I least like about it is the suspension on the left, the yellow. I think the only reason I don't like it at the moment is just because I think I could have done better with the shards of the actual suspension, maybe a bit more distinguished, like light to dark and stuff like that to contrast. However, it is on the background, like on the edges, so it's not too bad. That's probably my only gripe with the actual picture. But it's finished. Once it's finished, I don't really go back to them. It's sort of in the moment, so it is as it is. This was a fun quest to actually do. A nice exploration of a cool Max Power car from 1997. This car still exists today. It's an epic like Ford Escort and a legend in its past. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and any comments or anything like that, any like future projects that I can work on. I think the next Cubist one will be another Corsa, I think. I love painting Corsas. So, thanks so much for watching.